Welcome to the Confidence Unleashed podcast. Today we have a special guest who specializes in heart centered coaching. Joining us is my good friend Harrison, who lives in Australia, but is currently talking to us all the way from Israel, which is amazing. Harrison is an expert in guiding individuals through spiritual transitions. I've been on his podcast several times, and I thought it fit to have him as a guest on Confidence Unleashed. So I'm really super excited. But Harrison, this topic of faith is deeply personal to both myself and to you as it reflects our personal journeys of
Mhm.
spiritual exploration and growth. For me, this is a very new topic. You and I have shared an amazing conversation, and it resonates with my current experience of learning how to break free from restrictive beliefs that we can sometimes have within the Christian community. And I'm enjoying this journey of self acceptance as I'm moving in and through all of the different possibilities of leaving the Christian faith. And so, what I love about you, Harrison, is your experience in guiding others through these spiritual transitions, which can be scary, but it aligns perfectly with this podcast mission of promoting confidence and self discovery and personal empowerment. And so, welcome, Harrison. I'm so grateful that you are here.
Ugh, what's an intro, Heather? I'm beyond excited for this conversation for many reasons, but two big ones. And I was talking to this about you before we started recording. Our beautiful hearts together always create a magical portal that we go down, and a lot of things come up that are so valuable and so powerful. And I'm really honored that I get to be in that portal with you today. And the other reason that I'm really excited is this topic, right? This, to me, if you like, today I'm really, as you just said, I'm speaking from my personal experience. To me, based off my personal experience, this is the most important topic one could have a conversation around because it's so deep, it's so entrenched. And as we'll get into today, there are so many parts of it that bring up a lot of emotion that, in my opinion, we all deserve to transform and alchemize.
Yeah, I agree. Before we came onto this podcast, Harrison and I had a discussion just a couple of days ago, and I broke down because I hadn't shared this with anybody. Every single person, I would say 90%, if I had to come up with a number out of the hat, of my followers are born again believers because I presented my way, myself within the Christian community. And so most people know of me as the Christian sex coach. But over the last couple of years, there's been some questions that I've had on my own, and I haven't known what to do with them because everyone in my family is a born again Christian. My mom, my husband, I raised the kids within the church. So I didn't really have anybody to talk about this stuff with. And I think that a lot of times we don't have another person that can relate or has gone through what we're currently going through with this questioning of our faith. It's not necessarily a question of God either, which we'll get into in a little bit. It's more a question of, do I want to carry the title of Christianity? So I
Yeah.
I would love to start this by discussing the concepts of being stuck in this box, in the square box in around Christianity. So, how do you feel
Mm,
this mind? Because you've seen it in me, so I already know what you're going to say, but I want to help the audience.
yeah.
So, how do you feel this mindset limits those of us that are seeking spiritual growth?
Already feeling activated, Heather. We're in it. So I'm so happy that you said the word box, right? Because box is where I would start this conversation, right? You need to understand that if you are in any belief system, right? And this isn't just Christianity or if you're a Catholic or whatever denomination of Christianity you are, whatever belief system, right? If you're a carnivore, if you're a vegan, if you're a insert belief system, what we must understand is that a belief system is inherently closed. So what that means is when we're in it, we can't see out of it. And if we're looking to take a step, like you're saying, like we feel like we need more in our spiritual awakening, our spiritual growth, and simultaneously we're in this box of limitation that is stopping us from seeing beyond, we have to ask the question, okay, if I can't logically, with all of my belief system, right? Because that's what a belief is. A belief is a thought that we keep thinking, right? If I can't think my way out of this, if I can't believe my way out of this, is there another option, right? Is there another way that I can still take a step forward and overcome this challenge of being stuck in the box? And this is really where we need to start, in my opinion. Heather, to answer your question, the first place to begin is to start dropping into your heart space, right? To start dropping in to the place inside of you that has the most power, right? The place inside of you that has the answers, right? Because today I'm going to be sharing a lot of my experience and you're going to be asking questions and you're going to be sharing your experience. But at the end of the day, the person that knows best for your journey is you, right? And you need to be able to check that beyond the conditioning of the belief system that you're currently questioning. In this case, Christianity, right? In this case, the religious box.
I love what you said because I have been stuck in many in the box thinkings. My faith has been one of the boxes, my marriage, what does marriage look like? There's so many different boxes of belief that we grow up under. We learn it somewhere, right? It doesn't, most of the time, our beliefs don't come just magically all of a sudden we have a belief. It's
Yes.
heard it from other people. We've been up under leadership, something where it's been repeated. And then it's like a normal thought in your head. And then it turns into a belief because you hear it all the
Yeah.
time. And then you don't know any better. And if you're a kid, do you question your parents?
Yeah.
Don't really have the rights because you could, but you would get in trouble most of the time.
Yeah. And Heather, I just want to underline what you're saying here, right? This is why it's one of the many reasons that I elucidated and explained at the start that this is the conversation to have, because this belief of our relationship to our higher power, it starts from birth. It starts from like the get-go. So I just, for people tuning in, and maybe you're going through this transition or you're thinking about it or you're someone like, the first solution here is giving yourself compassion, giving yourself grace, giving yourself the understanding that this doesn't need to be an overnight conversation. This needs to be one step at a time with as much self-care, self-compassion, self-love to continue the path forward.
I love that because a lot of times when you're in a transition like this, there's a resistance wall that comes up and you start to worry or question because of fear. What does the other side look like? I don't know. I'm going to run back to what feels comfortable and what causes the least amount of resistance. So that's been my journey the last, I don't even know how long this has been going on. It's been months and months now. But I think for me, I felt a lot of fear. I still feel some fear. I think that many people of faith face the fear of hell
Yeah.
if they consider leaving Christianity. So, because I have thought this, so as an expert, how could we navigate this fear and find clarity in our spiritual journey so that it doesn't stop us from moving forward?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give two answers to this. Heather. I'm gonna give a general answer and I'm gonna give a more specific answer to the hell question, right? Because it's a big one. It's one that we talked about with you, with your journey, and it's one that I faced personally. The general answer is I want people listening to use this heart exercise as you go through this journey, right? Continue this journey, and I want you to use the affirmation or use the question or just feel, right? Drop into the field and use the affirmation of what would love do? What would it look like if I took the next step in love? What would love do in this relationship to hell? And I don't want you to logically think about that. I want you to feel that. So pose the question in your head. If I leave Christianity, I'm going to hell. Have that in your head. And at the same time, I want you to place your hands on your heart. And I want you to really ask the question to yourself with this other question in your mind: what would love do? And I want you to just notice the emotions, the feelings, the different thoughts that come up. Right. And that's the first step, right? Because love is the most powerful energy, the most powerful consciousness in reality. And in many ways, it equals God. So when you're looking for a God shaped answer, you approach it with a God shaped tool, right? That's the first part of this sort of answer here. The more specific answer to the hell question is you're not going to know. You're not going to know the answers, right? Meaning that you explained that there's always going to be fear, right? There's always going to be fear when you step outside the box. So when we're applying ourselves to this hell question, there's no amount of logical explanations that you can give yourself that is going to make you feel comfortable with that question, right? I could sit here for the next half an hour telling you from my perspective and my experience how hell does not logically exist in my world, how hell, if you expand all the way out, if God is everything, how could God also be this hell? But that's not what I want to do, right? Because that's my belief system. And you're in the transition of really trying to find and alchemize your own. What I would rather the people do tuning in is step forward into the fear with an open heart and use this love tool, right? Because the best answer here, as I talked about a second ago, is the one that comes from inside of you. And you already know the answer, right? And Heather, I want to pass it back to you because we had this conversation specifically around this question. And I want to hear what came up for you when you tested yourself with this specific part of your belief.
First of all, if we're using the love tool, and as Christians, we believe that God is the definition of love. So that means that if we are putting our hands on our heart and we're tuning into love, so as Christians, we believe when we invite him in that he's living in us. So we already have this love in us. So it's going, should be, if you're in tune and you spend time with God and you are familiar with his voice, you should be able to tune in to what that feels like, in my personal opinion and my personal experience.
Yeah.
So when I put my hands on my heart, when you asked me to do that the other day, I felt, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And then I started crying because I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Why
Yeah.
why would God create humans to be in relationship with him because he wanted a relationship with us? He wanted this close personal relationship with us. Why would he on purpose create a place to separate himself from us?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It makes more sense, logical sense in our brain, how our brains can compute that God would create us for a loving experience with him. And as we grow as humans, that love experience would expand and we would become closer to him, closer and closer to then where we can attain seeing him in person when we pass from this life to the next.
Yeah. Beautiful, Heather. And I like beautiful. And I just, I want to,
Can you tell it's deeper from when we spoke the other day?
oh, you've reflected on it, right? You've
Yep.
been sitting with it. You've been
Yep.
meditating with it. You've been asking the question, right? And
Uh-huh.
this is the solution to the people tuning in that are in the same boat, right? What you just did and what you came to, it's not a Heather thing, right? It's not a Harrison thing, right? We all have this ability. And this is, I'll make this very clear. This is not a one time situation in which you're going to start doing this, right? This remembering and coming back to our knowing, right? Our power, our understanding, our relationship with God, it's in us already, right? You talked about a second ago that all of our belief systems, most of them, are given to us by other people, right? This step that you're taking, Heather, that people listening might be taking, might be the first time that some of us have actually decided to listen to ourselves, right? And that is crucial because it is our truth, it is our power, it is our relationship to God and divinity that matters most. Nothing outside of us. So when these hard questions come up, this is how we step forward, right? We get quiet, we go within, we drop into our heart space, and we ask the question. And probably even more importantly, we listen, right? We listen and we feel to what speaks back.
Yep, I completely agree. And as far as helping people to navigate through the fear, I think it's going to look different for everybody. And I think the fear, letting go of the fear and how fast it falls away or stays with us, I believe will be an individual process. And just like any process that we go through in life, we can navigate through this fear and be fear free
Yeah.
for months. And then something could happen and trigger us, and we could go right back. But
Yeah.
that means that we have more work, and we can then do that heart process again.
Yeah.
And then that will help us to navigate through more fear waters and then get to the other side.
Yeah.
So, do you agree with that? It's not just like, I know you did say it's not just like a one time thing,
Yeah.
but for me, this has helped me to not fear the fear,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I do agree with you, Heather. And as someone who helps people with this, there is a sort of methodology to it, meaning that we're all going to have a unique expression of this, and it's going to unfold in our own unique way, always with all things. But what I've noticed is when we apply that love relationship to the situation, like asking what would love do, dropping into the heart intentionally, that's a super tool in itself, right? That's number one. Number two super tool is really getting into a devotional practice with yourself to caress yourself, to give yourself those things I said earlier, to give yourself compassion, to give yourself grace, to give yourself patience, right? Because if you don't have self love tools, self love practices in your life, then going through a transition like this, where all of this fear is coming up, it's going to be harder. When we had our conversation, I gave suggestions to you, right, of what you can do. And maybe we'll speak more about this in a bit. What we can do to alchemize and transform the emotions that come up during this progress, right? Because it's not just, yes, fear is the deepest state of what comes our way during this journey. But as we start to layer on top of that fear, there are other emotions that we face, right? There are emotions of anger, there are emotions of sadness, there are emotions of shame and guilt. Another practice and set of tools that I think is really applicable to people tuning in is really starting to have a real like a medicine bag or a toolkit of self-love devotional practices we can use in moments where we need to transform the emotion that comes up during this journey.
Yeah, because there's heavy emotions. I've had some heavy, deep emotions. Also, I was very concerned that if my mother found out that I was considering leaving the faith, that she would then put in her fear of hell that she would put in her worries. And I don't want my daughter to be left behind. All of the things that I've even said to other family members in my past growing up years. But what was amazing to me, and for those of you that are listening, I think this might be an encouragement to you that sometimes what we fear is something that our parents or somebody else in our life has already experienced,
Yeah.
but they have not shared it with us out of the same fear or out of the fear of pushing us out of the faith. So for me, my mom, I have goosebumps right now. My mom was so accepting when I brought it up, and I did not expect that at all, Harrison. I thought that she was gonna be pissed. I
Yeah.
thought she was gonna be threatening, judging, not wanting to come over for dinners. I imagined the worst. But then she said to me, "Heather, do you remember when me and your dad went through a divorce, and right before that, the pastor that we were getting counseling from said you need to pack the kids up for safety for the kids and leave this man." Okay. So they gave her that advice. She did it. And then within a couple of months, they decided to turn their back on her and she lost friends. That same pastor that gave her the advice wouldn't accept her into the church anymore. And she also had a questioning of faith when we were younger, but she didn't share that with us. So I asked her if there was a reason why she didn't share this with us. And she said that she didn't want to push us away from the faith because she wasn't sure of what she was going to do with her faith. Now, she's been on this amazing journey for years and years, and I have seen her transition into the most beautiful journey with God that I have ever seen. So, anytime that I need advice, I go to her. Anytime I need prayer, I go to her. And so it was amazing for me to feel the acceptance from the one person that I thought was going to react differently. And it gave me the freedom to then release this boulder that I was feeling on my shoulders, worried that I was going to not be accepted and loved by her anymore. So it allowed me to release that. And now my heart is more open and my spirit is more open to what God wants to do. And so I want to encourage those of you that might be considering this transition or possibly have gone through it or you know someone that's going through it to understand that there's so much more behind the scenes that we don't
Yeah.
see with other people in our lives. And the main thing that you have to remember is to stay in tune with you and to be happy with you because your happiness is the most important thing, Harrison. So
Yeah. Heather, once again, that was beautiful. And I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. I think this journey has just begun, and these signs that you're already getting at the start of it is a message from God in itself, or a message from Spirit in itself of how much more aligned you're becoming to where you actually need to be. So I first just want to honor you and acknowledge that. I want to share a deeper reflection on what happened with your mum, because when you shared that with me, like, things started downloading and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And I actually don't think it's just a Heather thing, what you experienced. And so two things. Firstly, I really want to emphasize what you said about just speaking the thing, right? Speaking the thing to the people that we love the most, despite the fear, right? Despite the stories that we're playing in our head of, oh, if I say this thing, then this is going to happen. This is another example of asking yourself and using the affirmation, what would love do? Would love hide? Would love restrict? Would love ignore our loved ones? Or would love speak the thing that's on our heart? Would love use courage and share the thing that maybe we might be rejected or abandoned, whatever the story is, but love would share it anyway. And you saw what happened, right? So I just want to, people listening, you can apply that with your loved ones. And the deeper sort of reflection here, Heather, I actually think it wasn't all of your mum's work that caused her to be open to your sharing. I actually feel what happened, Heather, with your mum was you, right? I actually feel what happened with your mum, why she was able to shift and be so open to your sharing of wanting to leave and make this beautiful journey was actually you already doing the work on yourself, right? I often explain this and connect this to the idea of ancestral healing, right? We're not separate from our family members. We're not disconnected from them. And when we're doing deep work like this, your mum is in this belief conundrum, this belief story, and many of your ancestors are. So when Heather does the work on it, you're not just breaking chains for Heather, you're breaking chains for your ancestral line, both backwards in relation to your mum and your parents and whoever's behind you, and forwards with your children that you may decide to have in the future. So I just want to share that for people listening. When we do the work, especially with these deep spiritual topics, we're also doing it for the people that we love the most.
Man, thank you. That was beautiful. Very insightful. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm curious, in your experience, how does this journey of faith impact individuals' confidence if they're not aligned with their spiritual truth?
Hmm.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Let's just pass it to you straight away, Heather. Like you tell me, right? I have so much to share on this topic, but I think as people are hearing and listening to you and feeling you, has your confidence shifted in the last week
Yes,
since you've been going deeper?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And for the last several months, my confidence has been impacted negatively as I have been feeling this fear and not sure what to do and questioning. And it's definitely taken a hit on confidence in all areas, even within my business. I have seen it show up everywhere. So now that this confidence, like I could feel the shift. And yes, my confidence has gotten a lot stronger. And I haven't felt this confident within my decision making process in a long time.
So there's the answer, right? But let's break it down. Let's go deeper into it. So I equate confidence. Confidence is linked very heavily to purpose, is to living a purposeful life. And how I define purpose, I actually think and feel that there's two stages of purpose that we all have. The first purpose that we all have that is the same is remembering what we are, remembering the all powerful, all knowing, all loving spiritual being that we've been from the start. And when we and then the second purpose is then sharing that power in our own unique way, in our own unique ways out into the world. But that first stage of purpose, if we have a belief system or these deep questions that are testing and cutting off potentially that relationship to our all powerful spiritual being, to our all knowing, all loving state of consciousness, then everything we decide to do from that point, it's like taking a dimmer switch and dimming the lights, right? Everything is not as vibrant. Everything is not as exciting. Everything we sleep in, right? We don't feel like we want to go outside. We just, because we've forgotten that relationship, we've forgotten that connection. And when we're talking about religion is the box that often gets in the way of that connection.
You literally are just describing what I've been feeling.
Mm.
You said, and we want to sleep in. We don't want to yeah, like I didn't lose all of my sense of myself, but I did start to feel something. I don't even know how to put it into words.
Yeah, yeah. And in, I'll just speak from my story, right? In a past version of me, I would have used that word, right? I would have used depression, deep anxiety, deep, there's something wrong with me, right? There's something, I'm broken, or I need to go take antidepressants and I need to like just suck it up and get on with it. And that's not what's happening, right? You're getting those, those quote unquote deep depressive feelings, those deep anxious feelings, those deep dark feelings. They too are valuable communications and insights that we ideally should open our hearts to and listen, right? That heaviness, that darkness, that resistance is a symbol and a sign that something needs to be seen, that something needs to be felt, that something needs to be adjusted. And when we can take the time, like you beautifully did this week, and really sit with those deepest, darkest fears, those deepest, darkest feelings, and create space for them to move and to ideally to transform, then there's answers, right? Then there's a step and a way forward.
Yeah, it's almost like the darkness, it's like this false facade. It's really not what I feared that it was. And instead of running from it, I chose to move into it and to ask questions around it. And that started to break down the wall.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. Yes. And it's at this point in the conversation, Heather, that I encourage people to think of the yin and the yang symbol, right? We all know, right, of the white and the black, but in the black that represents the darkness, the void, the heaviness, the resistance. In all darkness, there is a diamond of light. There is a beacon. There's a little symbol of light. And this is what I really want to encourage people tuning in, that making this transition or thinking about making this transition, they have all these fears, they have all these there's this deep darkness that's coming up. I want you to start by opening your heart to the possibility. And you don't even like this again, this is a step-by-step process, but just start with the possibility that each of your darkest points have a diamond of light that is waiting for you to recognize. And it's with those diamonds of light that we can start taking that step and taking that next thing that we want to do out of the box that we're currently leaving.
I love that. Man, I'm feeling this. This is a good conversation. So, if we choose to step out of the box of tradition, then how can we expect our confidence to evolve and to feel more of the unleashed version of ourselves?
Again, I'm going to give a general, like a very large answer to this and a very specific answer. So, the large answer, Heather, is your potential for potential is unlimited, right? One of the characteristics you spoke earlier about how love in your faith equates to God, right? And for me, it's God too. But another characteristic of the God that we have a relationship with is unlimited, unbounded potential, unlimited, unbounded creativity, unlimited, unbounded confidence. So the general answer here is that there is no limits to the confidence that you can potentially experience. The more specific answer is it will all depend on how open you are to receiving it, right? Because much like love, our relationship to confidence is based off how worthy we think we are to feel it, how worthy we think we are to experience it, right? Because we all have programs and beliefs, again, whether it's religious or otherwise, to think that, oh, I'm not a confident person in this situation. I don't deserve to be confident with this person. I'm not like insert. There's so many of them. So it's a question of how can we start to feel worthy and valuable again to experience the confidence, right? And each situation is going to be different, but we can ask the question, am I worthy? Do I deserve this? And go from there.
Yeah, and I think too, the in the box tradition is we have confidence in God, and
Mm,
we have confidence in God alone. You don't have confidence in yourself. That's loving on yourself. That's not Christianity. That's not God.
yeah.
You need to not work on confidence within yourself. You need to work on only having confidence in what God can do for you and who God is and the control of everything. This is a huge reason why I've been questioning it, because why would God create us to feel like shit about ourselves? That just doesn't,
Yeah.
again, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense to me, which is why I've been questioning this. But I know for those of you that might be listening that are very strong believers, you might have a challenge of being open to receive, feeling confident within yourself. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because I know we've talked about this on your podcast, and I would
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts about this.
So I'm just scrolling through my podcast feed to find the episode number of this episode that I want people to listen to in relation to this separateness that you're talking about, Heather. You're talking about this separateness to, I can't feel confident until I do the God thing outside of me. Or I can't, in relation to some of the Catholicism, I grew up in Catholic, I can't feel this way until I give this thing to Jesus, or I have this relationship with Jesus in a certain way. And I'm going to take this conversation very slowly, because this is where we start to get to the deep roots of the challenges here and the darkness here and the really questioning what is true for us. And I want people to start by listening to my episode on the cosmic love antenna, episode 65, why you are not separate to God. Why you are not separate to God. And that would be a really good place to begin. But let's break it down. So this is a journey, Heather, as you've experienced. And in my journey, that has really been the question that has propelled me out of my original religious belief system into where I sit now, is this question on, okay, if I want to be confident, if I want to be loving, if I want to be powerful, if I want to be all the things that I've connected to God as, what needs to change around this separation, right? What needs to change around, wait, if this is outside of me, is this also in me? Is this also me? Am I also all these things? And this is really where no one, not me, not Heather, no one can answer this question for you. This is where you need to, like we talked about at the start of the show, you need to get quiet. You need to create space for yourself and ask yourself these, exactly like Heather's using up, putting her hands together. You need to ask yourself these honest questions, right? Let's take love, right? Because that's an easy place to begin. Am I as loving, as capable, as open to receiving the same amount of love that I give this God, Jesus, whoever it is, this religious thing outside of me? And asking yourself that question, right? Do I have that love power inside of me? If their answer is no, and for most people it will be because of the conditioning, because of the belief system, right? Don't stop there. I want you to ask yourself the question, why? And be honest with yourself. And I want you to keep testing this. I want you to keep testing, why is this true? Why is this true? Why is this true? And the final thing I'll say here, and I want to hear your reflections on this, Heather. I want you to keep testing it and simultaneously processing the emotions that come up, because the emotions are the things that are blocking you from feeling the deeper truth, right? As an example, if I ask myself, why do I not can I feel the same amount of love, or can I give the same amount of love as this God shaped figure outside of me? And the answer is no. And I suddenly feel angry. That anger I need to feel. That anger I need to process. That anger I need to be with, because that's stopping me from getting to the deeper truth.
Yeah, for me, my emotion is the feeling of being bamboozled, lied to.
Yeah, that's a big one. That often comes with anger,
Yeah.
Heather.
Hmm.
So that's a beautiful example, Heather. And it's so easy for us. I did this. It's so easy for us to just, okay, that's the thought. Okay, that's it. And then you go back to the old way of being. But That's the point where you need to test it. Why do I feel bamboozled?
Yeah.
Where did this start? Where
Who has lied to me?
exactly? And it's not about it because I did this too. It's not about you then going out of your room and going to like persecute that person or persecute that group of people. No, it's about continuing to be with yourself and to feel all of that, to process all of that and continue that journey.
Yeah. It's helped me to understand. When I have this sense of understanding around the why, it helps me to move through it faster.
And it helps the mind catch up to the heart,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause that's what's happening, right? Because your heart knows, right? Your heart, your deeper
Our
consciousness
heart has
knows
always known. Like,
from the start,
yeah.
right? But your mind, with all of these beliefs, it needs to readjust. And this is not a bad thing, right? This is human. This is part of our way of being. So this is another sort of tip in itself, Heather, is it's really, again, giving compassion to ourselves for being this way, right? Having this is another super tool that I would apply to everyone going through this journey. It's having gratitude for
Mm,
this structure, this way of being, because it's how we function. And gratitude doesn't mean staying that same way. Gratitude just means we love it, we appreciate it, so we can then move beyond it.
yeah. And it's kept us safe. A lot of these beliefs have kept us safe for most of our life.
I
And
would say all
we,
of them are kept
yeah.
us safe, Heather.
And
Yeah.
we don't like to feel unsafe. So we tend to run back to the familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
That's the gratitude right there, Heather. Like you nailed it. Like for people tuning in, start with that. Start with the belief, the thought. I'm so grateful that you have kept me safe, right? And where we begin.
No, I love that. One of the things that came up in our conversation the other day, I was angry about it too. I said to you, Harrison, why do I always have to be the breaker of chains in my family? Because everything about what I have experienced in my life has then led to a breakthrough and then has been led to from that point of me teaching it then to other people. So I said to Harrison the other day, why do I always have to be the one? It's so freaking lonely sometimes. Many of you out there are going to possibly be like me, where you might be the first one. You might be the breaker of chains in your family as you explore beyond these traditional in the box beliefs. How can we navigate this while honoring the spiritual path that we're on?
Yeah. Let's jump straight to the practical answers here. I think I said this to you, Heather, like there is no expectation or pressure, right? When you say it, why do I have to be the breaker of chains? You don't have to do anything. I say this to everyone, including myself, right? We get the beautiful choice. We get free will as humans, as spiritual beings living a human experience. So we get free choice, free will for a reason. And this is one of the reasons, right? We get the free will, the choice to be this breaker of chains. It's only when we start to realize we're doing it all the time that we have this thought pattern of, oh, why does this have to be me? The first practical way to handle this, Heather, is to release the expectation and the pressure that's happening, right? Because we're choosing it. We get to choose to be the breaker of chains instead of it being like, oh, this is just happening to me. No, everything is happening for you in your life, including the choices that you decide to make in relation to breaking these beautiful chains. So that's the first part. Second part is, again, having some love for yourself, having some compassion and devotion for yourself. This is exciting, right? This is beautiful. This is a sign. And I said this to you, Heather, that this is why your soul is here. Your soul is here to do this work, not just for you, but as we've already talked about, for your family, right? You are the breaker of chains. And I talk about this a lot in my book. You are the breaker of chains for your ancestral line, right? And this chain in particular around religion and our relationship to higher power and God, It is the deepest of deepest chains. So as you break this chain, another practical step is really honoring the powerful being that you are, right? The powerful soul that has decided to be alive and incarnate in this lifetime to do this work specifically, right? You chose this and you are powerful. And then practical step, tip, tool number 3 here around this is, and you're already doing this, Heather, intuitively, and I want to double down for people listening, is share the journey, right? You said that you feel like you're alone when you do these breakup chains, when you step into this role. And I would say, yes, at the start. But, and you know this, Heather, this is why you're in my life and I'm in yours. We attract what we are. We attract more of what our heart wants by being in that heart space. So as you step into this heart love based journey of breaking the chains, Heather will attract her tribe, right? Heather will attract the people in her life that are on the same resonance that she is. And that is what everyone will do. So everyone listening that feels lonely in this or has begun this journey, they feel isolated, separated from their church, separated from their family, their group. I promise you, it is only a speck in the time in the journey. And it's only a matter of time until you are flooded with new love of people at your same level.
And that makes it sound very exciting and worth it. And also something that came up, it dropped in when you were talking, when I asked that question, why we find ourselves the breaker of chains, the one. I really do feel it's because God trusts us to be the one.
Yeah. Yeah. What, like it's connected to that soul path, right? That soul mission. And again, that trust in my experience comes with no attachment, right? Because I've fallen into this challenge, this darkness, Heather, is that when we walk along this mission, we, just like we can be imbalanced in not taking any action, we can become imbalanced in taking too much action. And in this journey of liberating and breaking the chains, we can fall under the belief, the story that I have to keep going because, like you said, God trusted me. And if I don't do this work, I'm not doing the thing. And I say this to you, Heather. I say this to myself and to everyone listening. You are loved either way. You are loved unconditionally. If God is love, God is unconditional love. And no matter where you are and what choice you decide to make, you are loved.
I love that. Thank you. All right, last question. You ready?
Hit me. Hit me.
So, how can individuals discern if leaving the identity of Christianity for a deeper personal relationship with God is the right decision for them? What inner guidance can they
Yeah.
trust?
We've already spoken a lot about this in many different ways, but I'll try and summarize it, Heather, in a few different points. So the first inner guidance that comes up is that feeling of discomfort, right? That constant feeling of, as we spoke about earlier, of waking up and putting an alarm on snooze and just staying in bed and not feeling the brightness of life is just decreased, and we don't feel motivated and confident to do the things that we want to do, right? It's that deeper feeling. Again, in my past life version of me, I would have subscribed to depression and anxiety, and in my opinion, it's none of those things. It's a request for adjustment. It's a request for aligning back to our authentic self. So I would look for our own internal versions of that, and for everyone it will be different, but there will be a similar theme of heaviness, of shadow, of, again, not feeling motivated and confident. The second sort of inner guidance that comes up to make this transition is a feeling of wanting more, right? A feeling of, and not wanting more from an ego space. Because often that happens, right? Our ego comes in as, I want more money. I want another car. I want this partner. I want all these things. And I'm not here to say that that's wrong or right. But what I'm here to say is that there's a difference between that and this longing that your soul, that your spirit has for more, right? It often goes with that heaviness. It often goes with this feeling of darkness, and simultaneously there's something inside of you that knows that you're meant for more, that knows that your current way of being, it's not enough for you. You are born from infinite potential and creativity and love, and that infinite potential, creativity, and love wants to be expressed in a more in an expanded way. And when you get honest with yourself and you're open to that, it'll start to direct you. And that's the last piece of advice here is getting specific and asking your inner guidance, like you did this week, Heather, asking your inner guidance the specific questions. Who do I need to talk to right now? What do I need to do to process this sadness? What is the answer to this big esoteric question that previously I would have asked the pastor or the priest or Jesus for, right? Asking yourself the specific questions, and again, learning to cultivate the space needed to really listen and then take action on what comes back.
And I think too, if we decide to leave Christianity or Catholicism or any religion that we have grown up under, it doesn't have to mean that we're walking away from our relationship with God, right? I think if anything, stepping away from the in the box tradition, legalism, rules, all of the heavy things that make you feel judged and shame and all of the emotions that can come up. For me, what I am experiencing in this last week is no, I'm not walking away from God Himself. I'm drawing closer to God. He wants to draw closer to me. Very similar to what most people are probably experiencing if they're thinking of leaving the faith and they're wondering, gosh, does that mean that I can't have a relationship with Jesus or pray to Jesus or pray to God? No, it doesn't mean that. For some, maybe. For some, I know that maybe that will be the path that they will go on. But for others, if you're still wanting to have that personal relationship with God, I truly believe that not only can you have it, but you can have an even higher version of it because that's what I'm personally experiencing.
I'm so excited, Heather, because what you're talking about, we spoke about the box earlier, right? What you're describing is why we can't be in those boxes because God, divine, the universe, great spirit, whatever you want to call your higher power, love, right? I call it love. It doesn't exist in that box. It exists in it and simultaneously everything outside of it. Heather, I feel inspired because I feel this will really help people too, including yourself. Can I share a poem that I wrote in relation to this
Of
topic?
course. Yes, of course. Please bless us with your poem.
Yeah. And I want to just encourage people to really tune into what we've talked about boxes in this chat in relation to belief systems and religion, and also talk about how love equals God, right? Because this poem is called I Can't Put My Love in a Box. I can't put my love in a box. It's too vast to be contained. It's an ocean without sandy shores and a fire that cannot be tamed. It's a force that births within me, a current that runs so deep. It's a feeling that overwhelms my limits and a secret I no longer wish to keep. It's the loving sunshine on a rainy day, the perfect smile that lights my face. It's the warmth that enlivens my heart and the comfort in a divine embrace. I can't put my love in a box. It's too wild and primal to be caged. It's a bird that wants to be free and fly, and a romance story that wants to be staged. It's the cosmic magic in every moment, the reason for all that I purposefully do. It's the gift that keeps on giving and a dream that has come true. I can't put my love in a box or hold it in my hand. It's like a flame that burns so long and bright and warms a distant frozen lands. So I'll let my love roam free and long and let it take flight without expectation. For it's meant to be experienced and embodied for my deepest soulful bliss and elation.
Wow, that was powerful. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome,
And thank you
Heather.
for being with us. I really appreciate you so much.
I
So
appreciate you too, Heather. And I just want to honor you before we wrap up.
I
Like,
love you, my friend, just so you know. I love you
uh,
more than I can even put into words.
almost that love has no bounds and no box to be put in. Heather, just for people listening, your followers, the people that have connected to you, your family, your friends, I just, I'm so proud of you. I'm grateful to be your friend. And I know that this journey that you're on, that I'm on, it doesn't have a destination and there's many steps in it. That if you continue to take it with this same level of openness, the same level of love, the same level of curiosity and the ability to just show up for yourself, then that's all that's needed, right? And whatever will come, and you'll be there to meet it with your God shaped heart and openness.
No, thank you. I love that. All right, Harrison. So before we wrap up, could you please share with our listeners where they can reach you? And if you have any upcoming events or workshops or resources that you have available for our listeners that will continue to help them on their spiritual journey.
Yeah, so a couple of little products and resources here for people to tune in. The first one we've already referenced is my podcast, Your Cosmic Love Antenna. I would definitely go tune into that, especially if this topic today has really expanded you. If you want a library of content to listen to and to help you with this journey, I have many episodes, not just with Heather, and we've talked about some different things, but just in relationship to love and God and spirituality. It's the podcast for you. So go check it out on all players. I would also recommend my book, Your Cosmic Love Antenna: Define, Embody, and Emit Your Unique Frequency of Love. It's much about this journey that I've been on and also how to really connect back to that inner power that's inside of you. And then you can also find me on all social media at Harrison Meagher, spelled Meagher, my last name. And if you're looking to connect, maybe you want to do some online coaching, some go deeper into this journey. I usually have a couple slots open every month for people that want to take this exploration even deeper. So thank you for having me, Heather. I love you.
Oh, I will also reference all of your social media and I can put the link to your book and everything in the show notes. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you can send that to me after the show, that'd be great. Thank you so much for being with us today, Harrison. And thank you to those of you that are listening for tuning into this, what I hope that you think is an enlightening conversation because it has been for me. Be sure to follow the Confidence Unleashed podcast for more empowering discussions. And if you found value in today's episode, please take the time to share it with your friends and family. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating, and we would love to have a review of what you thought about this episode. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. So until next time, keep it confident and sexy. Take care. Bye bye.